All right. Good morning. Welcome back, everyone, to our water fluoridation investigation. So, this morning, I thought I would speak to you really briefly about essential nutrients and coercion. So, throughout this investigation, I have contacted individuals from various health departments in various states. I've spoken to people within the Virginia Department of Health. I've spoken to people in the Wisconsin Health Department, Minnesota Health Department. And this theme keeps coming up where those in the health department seem to think that ingesting diluted hydrofluorosilicic acid is healthy. They seem to think that this is an essential nutrient, okay? This is a poison, and when they put it into the drinking water, make no doubt about it, they are putting a diluted poison into the drinking water. This is not a nutrient. The EPA defines this as a contaminant, and the FDA defines this as a drug. This is an unapproved drug according to the FDA, the definition. So, what is happening, and it really disturbs me because like I said, I'm speaking to people in various departments within the health department. The most recently, I spoke to somebody who was who was an epidemiologist, and he wanted to conflate ingesting diluted hydrofluorosilicic acid with ingesting essential nutrients, and it is simply not the same. So in order to illustrate my point, I have some salt here. So let me break out my two examples. So we have some salt that is pink salt, Himalayan pink salt, okay? So this is not iodized. And we have the classic Morton iodized salt, okay? Iodine is an essential nutrient. Your thyroid needs iodine in order to function properly. Now, some people, for various reasons, health reasons, choose not to ingest iodized salt, right? And they prefer something like Himalayan salt. So I keep a variety of salts on hand because I have a lot of high maintenance friends and everybody prefers a different type of salt. I have some fancy finishing salt, and you name it, I have it, right? These were the two I pulled. So iodine is an essential nutrient. Hydrofluorosilicic acid is not. And like I said, some people rather get their iodine from natural sources such as perhaps maybe seafood, okay? Now, when it comes to coercion, nobody is coercing the public into ingesting iodized salt. Now, I wish I had a Morton's just regular salt, but I forgot to buy that from the store for purposes of this demonstration. But there, you can choose what you would like to ingest. Nobody is coercing you into it. Now, people would say, now hold on, wait a minute. Nobody is forcing you to ingest diluted hydrofluorosilicic acid. But they are. And here's the difference is Henrico County, they have a monopoly on our water, right? So I don't have the option to hook up to a waterworks that is not feeding fluoride, right? So when the government owns the water and the government gets to dictate what water comes to my house, and they get to dictate the type of chemical drugs in the drinking water, that is in fact coercion, okay? So that is the difference. I hear also too how people would like to conflate ingesting diluted hydrofluorosilicic acid, which this is a drug, with folate acid in bread. Now, here again, here's the issue, okay? So, several things. There are a lot of people that cannot eat bread, okay? People with gluten allergies, gluten sensitivities, celiac, and so forth. They cannot eat the bread. The government is not coercing them to eat the bread. What's the bread company? Wonder is not coercing anyone to purchase their product, right? You can easily opt out of the bread, right? And choose to eat something else. Now, when it comes to the synthetic folate that is in the bread, there's a couple things that these health departments seem to be missing. And I'm not sure if it comes from a place of them being evil or ignorant, right? Because how do you conflate ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid with ingesting folate acid in bread? It's inappropriate to conflate the two, but yet they do this regularly. So the difference is that, well, let's start off with why companies add the folate acid to the bread. Okay, now one, folate is an essential nutrient. Hydrofluorosilicic acid is not an essential nutrient. So let's start with that. Okay. 2, why do companies put folic acid in the bread? The reason why they're putting it in the bread is because the bread is stripped of any nutrients. They process it and bleach it to the point that there's barely any nutritional value to much of the bread that is on our store shelves, right? A lot of people say that the bread here in America, you can put it on the shelf for many weeks and it won't rot, but the bread overseas will mold within a few days. And it's because here in America, it gets processed and bleached and all these fillers and everything so it doesn't rot, right? So there's barely any nutritional value to the bread. And so what they will do is they will then add vitamins and minerals into the bread, one of them being folic acid, right? So they put it in. Now, this is the equivalent of taking a multivitamin and shoving it into a Snickers bar and saying, look, we have a health food. And in fact, when I was in school for dietetics, there was a individual that worked at a government run, had helped out with a government run program, and was bragging about cereal. Look at all the nutrients in cereal. And she, looked at the side of the label, and I said, yeah, well, they're just shoving, multivitamins in there. If this is not a health food, okay? Just because you shove a multivitamin into, Kool-Aid doesn't magically make this a health food, right? It just doesn't work that way. So we strip this bread to death, and then we add synthetic folate, right, in order to give it the illusion as if this is healthy for you. Well, one, it's not a great product, in my opinion, and 2, the other thing that seems to be lost on these people from the health department is there are people who have what's called an MTHFR gene. And what that means is that these people don't actually process the synthetic folate in a way that's beneficial to them. In fact, I'm seeing more and more that people who have this disorder are told not to ingest synthetic folate. And it's very hard for these individuals to avoid it because folic acid is dumped into everything, right? And the reason being is for these people who have this MTHFR gene, when you have synthetic folate, it doesn't really get into the individual cells. And what it does is it kind of blocks, it kind of gums up the works, if you will. And so they're told to avoid it and then take foods that have that has naturally occurring folate, and then it's actually able to get through and get into your body. So we don't coerce people to take folic acid, because for some it backfires and it's actually more harmful. We don't coerce people into ingesting iodized salt, because for some it is their bodies just don't handle it very well. Now, what's interesting is hydrofluorosilicic acid. So if you remember from my previous video, this is a halogen, and it is the most reactive halogen, and it will displace iodine. I did a quick Google search, and it appears that 1 in 8 women have thyroid, or will develop a thyroid disorder in their life. So when you're drinking fluoridated water, you could be contributing to thyroid problems, right? To developing thyroid problems. The more fluoridated water you drink, the more iodine you need in order to counteract the chemical drug that you're ingesting. So I really don't think it's appropriate for the government to be tinkering with our health. Not everyone can ingest the same thing, right? Some people have strawberry allergies, some people don't. Some people, the iodized salt is fantastic. For certain individuals, it's not. Sometimes people can ingest food, such as bread with folic acid, and for some individuals, they cannot ingest bread, nor can they ingest this synthetic folic acid. Okay, so it's really inappropriate to be tinkering with our health. You are creating problems for a great number of people, and you have no earthly idea how much of the diluted hydrofluorosilicic acid an individual is ingesting, right? Some people may be guzzling tons and tons of water because they're an athlete, or perhaps they have diabetes or kidney disorders. So they're going to be getting a lot of this hydrofluorosilicic acid, right? So they're going to be getting tons and tons of this, and that in itself is going to cause adverse health effects for that individual. So I believe, need to overhaul our health department because of the fact that they don't understand the difference between hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is an FDA-defined drug, and essential nutrients. They don't understand the basics between essential nutrients and drugs, and essential nutrients and non-essential nutrients. They don't understand individualized medicine and individualized needs. Some people do really well eating meat, right? There's a girl on YouTube, she had health disorders. I forget her name. I think it's Michaela Peterson. And she consumes a fair amount of meat, and that worked out for her. It actually helped her. With some individuals, eating meat, it's not agreeable to them. They cannot process it very well, right? Everybody's different, which is why the government should never compel or coerce you into ingesting anything. It's really reckless, and they're doing it. They're not monitoring you. They could care less what type of adverse health events that they cause in you and your children. So anyway, I hope that clears it up, and I encourage you to start paying attention. And anyone in our health department who doesn't understand the difference between an FDA defined drug and essential nutrients should be fired, in my opinion. We've got to really clear out these people who don't understand these basic things, right? You're in the health department, you're asking people, you're answering questions regarding health, and you're saying that putting this into the drinking water is the exact equivalent as putting iodine in salt. It is not. One is an essential nutrient. One is not a nutrient whatsoever. This is being coerced on the public through the waterworks that the county has a monopoly on. Nobody's being coerced to ingest iodized salt. It's very easy to choose salt that does not have iodine in it if that is what you prefer and that is what works with your body. So anyway, I hope that covers that. And hopefully the county of Henrico does not respond back with this nonsensical response like the health department has repeatedly done, because it would be they would be ignorant to do so, in my opinion. But who knows? All right, guys, that is all for today. I will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye.